Hey book buds, welcome back. I'm Mackenzie and this week I am going over all of the most anticipated releases for 2022 and I am doing that by month. So we've come out with January and February already and today we're going through March releases. Now, one thing that I've found as I go through these is as the releases get further and further out, there are less and less reviews on them and less information about them. So these videos are probably going to get progressively shorter, but today I have a bunch of books that I am very excited for March. So let's just get straight into it. Starting with March 1st, we have A Brush with Love, and that's by Mazey Eddings. Also, yes, I have my computer with me again to help me out because I don't actually have any of these books. But March 1st, A Brush with Love by Mazey Eddings. It has a 4.24 stars out of 5 on Goodreads, which is pretty good. And it's got a lot of pining, some meddling friends, and it is all about like being a dentist. And I really don't know if I'm going to read this one simply because the dentist gives me so much anxiety. Like I have anxiety. I don't go to the dentist. I should. Like I went like maybe 8 months ago, but you're supposed to go twice a year. It scares me. I hate the dentist. Reading a book about dentists, I don't know how I'm going to feel about that. But it looks like it's such a good book. So like, do I get over my fear of going to the dentist by reading this book about going to the dentist? I don't think it's all about going to the dentist. It's a romance book, but it's got some mental health representation for anxiety, which is really cool because I have anxiety too about going to the dentist. I hate the dentist. I don't know why I started off with this one. This one's just, it looks like such a good book, but like, it makes me so uncomfortable simply because I hate going to the dentist. Anyway, it's a slow burn. It's like a strangers to lovers to strangers to friends to lovers type of thing. And it comes out on March 1st. So if you are not as scared of the dentist as I am, and if you're looking for a romance book, this one has some really good reviews. And honestly, I would read it if I wasn't afraid of the dentist. And I might read it anyways, but my fear of the dentist is really holding me back from that right now. But I have until March to figure it out. So, March 1st, A Brush with Love. Read it. Let me know how bad the dentistry is because anxiety. Okay, next up we have Gallant by V.E. Schwab. And this has 4.26 stars on Goodreads so far. So again, awesome reviews. It's a standalone book and it's for fans of Holly Black. He wrote The Cruel Prince, which is the Folk of the Air series, and I loved those. Those are some of my favorite books. Love, 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 love. So I'm really excited for this because it's not by the same author, but it's like for fans of Holly Black. I am a fan of Holly Black. So Gallant by V.E. Schwab is really going to be it for me. It's a YA book. It's a fantasy novel. We'll see how that goes. I haven't read any of her things yet. I've heard she's a good author though, so if you have, let me know if you like her or not, but it is definitely 100% on my list. March 1st, Gallant. Alright, you know I could not make it through this video without talking about Tessa Bailey's new book, Hook, Line, and Sinker. I have seen so many people get this on NetGalley and review it and love it, and Tessa Bailey wrote It Happened One Summer, and this is the second in the series. Each one is a standalone romantic comedy type of book focusing on different characters, but second in the series. Loved It Happened One Summer. This is it. This is, so many people are hyping this book up. I can't wait for it. It's on everybody's pages right now. And I didn't get the early released copy. I have to wait until March 1st when it comes out, just like all of you. Isn't this tragic? Isn't it tragic to have to wait when other people get early releases? I've gotten an early release or two, so I really can't complain. but why do I have to wait? Why do I have to wait? I'm so excited about this. Anyway, I should talk more about it rather than just my feelings. It has 4.37 stars. It's by Tessa Bailey. She's written a bunch of other things. Very, very good. I love all of them. This is coming out on March 1st. It is a friends to lovers and the boy falls first. So that's all I know about it, because I don't want to like read too much into it and like spoil it, because so many people are saying so many things right now, and I don't want to read about it because I don't want you to spoil it. Don't spoil it for me. I'm going to read it in March when it comes out, okay? Okay. But I'm so excited. This is like top of my list. This is one of the books that I am highly, highly, highly anticipating for 2022. Jump on board this train if you are not on it already. Get on this train. It looks like a good book. I want to read it a lot. And next up we have Mr. Wrong Number by Lynn Painter, and this has 4.12 stars on Goodreads. I believe, is this a Berkeley? Yes, this is a Berkeley romance book, and Berkeley, like the publishing company, recently like split off into Berkeley Romance, I believe. I don't know if it was recent, but they have Berkeley, and underneath that they've got Berkeley Romance, and Berkeley romance books are so good. Like Helen Huang, so like The Kiss Quotient and Bride Test and Heart Principle, she writes for Berkeley, and The Love Hypothesis, so Allie Hazelwood writes for Berkeley. So Mr. Wrong Number is a Berkeley book, and you know it's going to be good when it's a Berkeley romance. Like I'm sorry, but you know. When you know, you know, and this is it. It is said to be a sexy rom-com. It's got some close proximity, sexual tension, banter. It's like a brother's best friend, but it all happens over like a text exchange. Well, not all of it, but like apparently like a very large portion of this book is over text exchange. It's called Mr. Wrong Number, so that to me makes sense. But that's that. I'm excited for this simply because it's a Berkeley romance book and I love Berkeley books, so that's that. That's a good one. Very excited for this. It's a romance, obviously. I love those. That's that. Okay, so our next book is The Book of Living Secrets by Madeleine Roux, and I don't know how I feel about this yet. I saw the synopsis, I saw like what the book's about, and I was really interested, but there's also a lot of mixed reviews. It has 3.48 stars, which isn't necessarily bad. It's just got like, you either love it or you hate it type of thing. It's a fantasy book and it's young adult. It also comes out on March 1st, but it's about like these two people, the characters, who go into their favorite book. And so there's a lot of books about books, and I don't know what that is this year. This year there's just books about books about books about books. But they go into their favorite book and like not all is as it seems, and I think that that's really interesting. And the book is said to be like a genre bending type of book, so like I don't know if that means like fantasy and dystopian and romance, or like what this is. Is this horror? Is this historical? There's not really a lot about this. There's mixed reviews, and that's about it. But I can't really tell you what genre this is. I think it's a fantasy, but it's meant to be genre bending, whatever that means. So I think that to me is interesting, just because like I read fantasy, I read romance, but like genre bending like goes between a bunch of different things, and I think this could get me out of my comfort zone a little bit. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping for a couple other people to like put reviews out and see how other people like it before committing and buying it, but it is on the burner. It is on the back burner. It's something I'm thinking about. It's on my list of to reads possibly for next year. Or this year, I suppose. This year, because it is officially January. So for this year, 2022, it is no longer 2021, it's 2022. It's on my list. thinking about it. Okay, next up we have The One True Me and You by Remi K. England. It has 4.31 stars, and I've heard that this is really, really good. It is queer, it has a non-binary character, which I really love, and this non-binary character is in like the process of kind of discovering themselves, and so it's more about like them with like their birth gender, but also like transitioning into like being non-binary and what that means for them, and like discovering themselves and their authentic selves. So I think that that's going to be really interesting, and it looks really good. It's at a fandom convention slash beauty pageant, so just that premise is something that I've never really thought about. It's not like your typical like falling in love type of thing. It's like, it's a unique situation, whereas I feel like other situations, books aren't all unique, but this one seems very unique while also still giving like representation and like coming of age and like discovering oneself and stuff. It is really quick and fast paced, so I'm hoping to get this one and just go right on through, but it looks really good. I'm very excited for this, just for all that representation and like authenticity and discovering oneself. So that comes out March 1st. Very, very, very excited about that. Finally, moving on from March 1st releases, everything that I've talked about so far is a March 1st release. This next book that I am about to talk about is a March 8th release. This one's called All That's Left in the World, and it is by Erik J. Brown. It has 4.63 stars on Goodreads, so again, pretty good. And it is a queer young adult novel, and it is like a post-apocalyptic romance, so it's like dystopian type of thing. I know it goes back and forth. It is a dual point of view, and that's about all I know. I have to say there's not as much that I know about this, but I'm excited to read it. I think that, again, this is interesting because I don't read a lot of dystopian books, but I either love them or hate them, and if it's done really well, it can be loved not just by me, but like by everyone, you know, like The Hunger Games and The Maze Runner and all of like the classic dystopian ones that like I grew up on. I feel like this has the possibility of being a dystopian book that the next group and age of kids can grow up on, and I think that's really unique. So I think this book has a lot of potential among young adults, a lot of potential among like dystopian and queer and representation. Just, it has a lot of potential to be very widely loved, and I'm excited about that simply because potential. Like, I'm excited to see if it lives up to the potential that I think that it could have. But to be fair, I also haven't read it, so I don't know if it's got like as much potential as I think, but I think this has a lot of potential. So I'm very excited to read about it and come back to this and find out if it was as good as I thought it was. Okay, next up we have more representation, everything I love and more. So this one is called Lakelore, and it is by Anna Marie McLemore, and it has 4.67 stars on Goodreads. It comes out March 8th as well, and it is a young adult book. I never realized how many young adult books I read up until now when I'm doing this, and I'm realizing that like all of the books that are coming out in 2022, like the ones that I want to read, are all young adult books. There's definitely a couple of new adult romance books that are coming out that I'm interested in, but for the most part, I really read YA. So I think that's interesting. I don't really consider myself to read a lot of YA, but I do. I do read a lot of YA. Anyway, this is a young adult book, and it has a lot of representation. So let me break this down for you. There are two main characters. Both of them are non-binary. So we've got our LGBTQIA representation right there. they are also, I don't know if it is one or if it is both, but at least one of the characters is neurodivergent. This book kind of explains their point of view as a neurodivergent person. And I think that's really interesting because I'm a neurodivergent person and I see the world in a very specific point of view, and I feel like a lot of people do, but a lot of other people share the way they see the world, and I see the world in a different way than a lot of other people do. So it's like kind of hard for me to fit in and for me to like do that. So I have a very specific way in which I see the world as a neurodivergent person, and this book is kind of explaining the way that one person sees the world as they are a neurodivergent person. And I think that that's going to be really interesting for me as a neurodivergent person, but also to see how neurotypical people read it and what they think of it, not like personally experiencing that themselves. So there is that. Also, one of the characters is Mexican American, so it has some different racial representation as well, and I think that's really cool. It is a contemporary fantasy, so I don't really know what the genre contemporary means, but everything's contemporary. Contemporary romance, contemporary fantasy, contemporary something. I don't know what contemporary means, but people say it's a contemporary fantasy. I know what fantasy is, I just don't know what contemporary is. But it's a contemporary fantasy. It comes out March 8th, and this one is high on my list. This one's very, very high on my list. I cannot wait for this. I need to start saving my money, on a completely unrelated note. I need to start saving my Christmas money for these books that are coming out, because I got some money for Christmas, but I also got some books for Christmas. And, you know, you get money and you're like, you know what I'm going to spend it on? Books. No, Mackenzie, you already got books. Now you have to wait and spend your money on more books once they come out. There's a lot of books that I really want to read, but my birthday isn't until April, and so I have to make it from now until April and not spend all of my money on new books that are coming out. This is my own reminder to save some money for yourself to buy all of these books, because it really is true that all of them are at the top of my list. They all are. They all are. I am reading every single one of these books. I have the time. Watch me do it. Next up, we have Dating Dr. Dill by Nisha Sharma, and it has 4.4 stars flat on Goodreads. I'm excited about this one. It is a rom-com enemies to lovers. So, classic trope. I love enemies to lovers. There's just something about the banter, something about how much they truly hate each other until they don't, that just gets to me. So, enemies to lovers, it's steamy, it's got a dual point of view, it goes back and forth, and also both of the characters are Indian, so it's got a lot of Indian culture and representation in that way, and that's really interesting to me because I'm not Indian and I don't have a lot of exposure to that, but like in some of the reviews and stuff, they talk about like the Indian culture and like dishes and traditions and stuff like that, and weave it into the book really nicely. And I think it's going to be fun and interesting for me to learn about that in addition to enjoying the story and the romance itself. So I'm very excited. This one comes out March 15th. So keep your eye on that one. Okay, I have no information about this next book. I really don't. It is The War of Two Queens by Jennifer L. Armentrout. So JLA, she wrote Blood and Ash. So this is the fourth book in the series. From the reviews, all I can see is like a lot of people want to read it, and most people enjoyed the first and the second in the series, but not the third. So it's going to be interesting to see this fourth book and see if the fourth book is as good as the first and the second book, or if it is another letdown for her readers. I haven't read Blood and Ash. It is on my TBR. I want to read it, but I haven't gotten there yet. But a lot of people do love the series. A lot of people love her writing. I probably will once I finally pick her book up, but That's all I know. It's coming out March 15th. It's a fantasy romance, maybe? I know it's fantasy. I don't know if it's romance. If you read Blood and Ash, you probably know more about this book than I do, just because I haven't read that yet. So this is number 4 in a series that I haven't read. That's why I have no information. But if you read that series, next one's coming out, so get your hands on it. This one I am so excited for. This is called Always Jane by Jenn Bennett, and I love Jenn Bennett. I'm so excited. She wrote Starry Eyes, and Starry Eyes is one of my favorite novels. And I know that I have a lot of favorite authors, and I say that a lot, but like, again, no reader can choose just one favorite. No one. That includes me. So I can't choose just one favorite. She is one of my favorite authors. I love Starry Eyes. That's one of my favorite books. So she is coming out with Always Jane, and it is a love triangle dual point of view. It is a young adult book, so there's that. I will say it has mixed reviews. A lot of them aren't really positive. It has 3.68 stars on Goodreads, so it could be better. I don't know. I'm really excited about it, but also I've heard that there's cheating, and I can't get on board with that no matter what. Like, I was also very excited for Elle Kennedy's Good Girl Complex because I love Elle Kennedy, but then she did the cheating trope and I just couldn't do it, and I really didn't like the book. I didn't not like the book. It was a good book. I just don't like cheating, so I can't get on top of that. So this book, I've heard there's cheating, and I really can't get on top of that, but it's Jenn Bennett. How do you not get on top of that? I don't know. So I'm really excited. I think this one's going to be a letdown, and I'm really sad about that, but I'm going to pick it up anyways. So watch me pick it up. Watch me just get disappointed. We'll see how that goes. Next up, we have A Magic Steeped in Poison by Judy Lynn, and it is the first in a duology. So it is got a lot of Chinese history and mythology. It is a young adult fantasy novel. And if you've read Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo, or if you've read Fable by Adrienne Young, then this book is supposed to be like for fans of the other books. So if you've read Fable or Shadow and Bone, you will probably enjoy this as well. The cover is gorgeous. The cover is gorgeous. That is like the one thing that I have to say. This cover is gorgeous. Will I pick a book up based on its cover? Yes, absolutely, 100%. That is one of my fatal flaws. I saw this, I saw the cover was cute, and I said I'm adding it to my TBR simply for that. I have no other information for you. It just has a cute cover. Comes out March 29th. It looks good, so I'm reading it. You should too. And last book for this video, we have Wild and Wicked Things by Francesca May and Fran Doricott. It has 4.08 stars on Goodreads. I'm very excited about this one because, again, representation. It is a female queer romance. It is also fantasy. I think it's like romance slash fantasy slash like historical because it takes place after World War I. So like it's in the past, so it's got some history. It's got some fantasy because it's like got a bunch of magic and witches and stuff like that. And then it also has romance. So like if you cannot choose your favorite genre for the life of you, this would be the book for you because it's got everything. It's got fantasy and romance and history, and just if you don't have a favorite genre, if you can't decide because you're indecisive, you should read this book. So I've heard that it has great Gatsby vibes, and that is something that I'm super excited for. Also, if any of you have read Great Gatsby, is it gay? Because I read it and I just say, this is the gayest shit I've ever read. But at the same time, it's like there's no gay shit in there. But I think it's gay, and I feel like a lot of other people feel like Great Gatsby is gay. But anyway, unrelated. This has Great Gatsby vibes. I don't actually like the book Great Gatsby, but if this book is better but has Great Gatsby vibes, like, there is the potential there. What if this book is the new classic? Like, Great Gatsby was the stuff that I read because my high school English teacher forced me to, and that's probably why I didn't like it. But, like, what if this book, Wild and Wicked Things, is, like, the classic for, like, 50 years down the road? And they're like, you know, they used to read The Great Gatsby, but now they read Wild and Wicked Things, because that's arguably better. So, anyway, I see that there is a lot of potential for this book as well. I'm excited for this. I think that this one has moved up my list for, like, want to read just in general to the very top, even though it doesn't come out until March 29th. But that's that. This was an insanely long video. I hope that you stayed the whole time because that last book was the one that I am the most excited for. But happy third day of the week, because you have 4 more days of this. I'm doing this for 7 days. We've done January, February, March, and I will catch you tomorrow for April. And I will see you then. Bye!